Stressed out, how to finish everything.
Are they running you ragged?
Yes, they sure are.
Could you? I
You
got
want
a
some fresh ice water?
Zoom going on. Yeah, please. No, that's all right. It's my fault.
never heard anything more beautiful in my whole life. There's not enough room. Sorry, guys.
Is that the Thanksgiving melody?
No, I just made that up, and it was very difficult to keep coming up with new ideas. You're right, John. I lost all my piano skills.
I've never heard anything more beautiful in my whole life.
Oh, so it's official. Okay.
Okay, I'm coming.
Tell me when.
Go for it. There's not enough room. Sorry, guys.
Set the Thanksgiving melody.
Woo!
I'm Reverend Jill Jarvis, and it was my honor to serve this congregation in years past. I'm with you today at the request of Reverend Shelley Page, who prepared this service, but cannot be with you today since she is in COVID quarantine. I'm sharing these words on her behalf. She sends her love to all of you. We gather here this afternoon to celebrate the life and mourn the death of Anthony Allen Cipollaro, beloved son and brother, dear friend, charismatic bright star, accomplished talented musician, and gentle, kind, loving soul. We gather as a family and friends in sadness because Tony's time among us was all too brief, a death that came too soon. It is said that grief shared is grief diminished. Your presence here this afternoon speaks of your longing to continue a precious connection with Tony and a desire to bid him farewell in the company of others. Yet grief is a private journey. Since each of you knew him in your own way, no one else knows what has been taken from you, especially for those closest to him, his mother Brooke and stepfather Gary, his beloved guardians, John and Chrissy, his brother Ben and sister Dahlia, his girlfriend Kayla, best friend Sam, and the constellation of John and Chrissy's extended family who knew and loved Tony for so many years. As you each feel the pain of loss, know that this kind of pain is as much an expression of love as laughter and joy. It hurts when someone we have loved and cherished is now gone. It is especially so when we have watched this much beloved one struggle with addiction. Our hearts break at this final grief in a spiral of grief and concern that has unfolded over time. The journey of grief is one that lasts a lifetime, changing as the seasons pass, catching us by surprise some days, tucked in the hidden recesses of our souls on other days. Be gentle with yourselves and each other in the days and years to come. As the psalmist in the Hebrew Bible long ago said, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We are meant to walk through the valley, not to make a home there. We are accompanied on the path with the love of others and the strong assurance that the spirit of love and light and comfort and hope is ever present among us all the time. In our tender time of grief, we often turn to poetry, a language that the heart can hear. My colleague Barbara Peskin once wrote these words for a time like this. Often we are found in our grief and comforted, calmed by some kindness, brought alive again by beauty that catches us undefended. Even when the sun is most thin and far, even at the hour the storm is at its height, we can go through. Renewal nests within sorrow. Love abides, even beyond anger, beyond death. We are held in an embrace, invisible but infinite, moving with all creation between wholeness and fragmentation, moving always toward the one. Small joys and great sorrows pass, and we, with steps uncertain, move on to whatever is next, but continually seen, heard, held by life infinite and remote, intimate and abiding. Love, do not let us go. May the fullness of our loving memories come alive today as we gather to honor and celebrate Tony Cipollaro's life. Let us begin our journey of remembrance with a chalice lighting. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we light a chalice at our gatherings, holding the community in light and love. Our flame will be kindled today by Tony's brother, Ben Spencer.
We light this chalice to honor the life of Tony Cipollaro. May it hold our memories, our grief, and our love. May its flame carry our heart's most tender and deep feelings into the heavens.
We come here today with so many feelings, so much for our hearts to hold. At times like this, we humans gather in remembrance. You are invited, as you feel moved, to light a candle in memory of Tony, filled with joy as well as sorrow, as we remember the bright light that he was in the world. Please line up on this side. You can light candles from either side of the altar. So please come forward now if you wish to light a candle. Everyone liked Tony. A guy who easily made friends, the kind of guy who could converse with ease and grace with anyone, people of all ages and backgrounds. A charming, sensitive, loving, gentle-hearted soul, a bright, quick mind, a passionate, talented musician, and a young man who struggled with addiction. While we are gathered here because he is gone far too soon, we will not let the story of his death from an unintentional opioid overdose overshadow the story of his life. For Tony was a beautiful, remarkable soul. He started out life as the much-loved, much-wanted child of a young single mom in Florida. Brooke did the best she could to make ends meet and raise a small child on her own. And when Tony was 3, she moved here to Lawrence to start a new life. She dated John Spencer, and he fell in love with little Tony right away. John and Tony hit it off, and John became a father figure for him, taking him on weekends and connecting with him even after he was no longer dating Brooke. Brooke continued to struggle, sometimes with migraines where opioid medications were prescribed to help. And then in that pernicious way opioids act in our bodies, Brooke became addicted, and it affected her ability to be the kind of mom she wanted to be for her little guy. John was still in the picture for Tony and was now with Kristen, who would become his wife. Brooke turned over the responsibility of day-to-day parenting to John and Chrissy, who became his legal guardians when Tony was 8. They showered Tony with love, attention, and the gift of a stable home. Choosing to live in the same neighborhood where Tony had started school so he could stay in the same elementary school with his friends and familiar surroundings. He was a kid everybody liked, happy, smiley, funny, and sometimes silly, charming, and quite honestly, a real cutie. Tony was a sensitive, empathetic person who listened well and could read people really well. He naturally used this gift, and it is a gift, to be a loving soul. He befriended a child in the neighborhood who was autistic and afraid to walk to school, but Tony's steadfast companionship helped his friend to find his own courage. He was smart as a whip and had the distinction of being the only 3rd grader to be a finalist in the school spelling bee, coming in 2nd, competing against the older kids, impressing everyone at Sunflower Elementary School. He was the kind of student who was naturally bright, getting through school without cracking a book. Tony was a natural and easy conversationalist, at ease with his peers, but also adults. He loved to chat with people of all kinds, about all kinds of topics. And he could argue the points in a discussion too. John thinks he had potential to be a great lawyer. He made friends of all ages here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lawrence, and wherever he went. He loved to draw. John and Chrissy have collections of his art from childhood, including some made into a keepsake book. Tony was expressive through his art and through his real love, music. When his musical talent became clear, John and Chrissy fully supported him with a drum kit. Now that's loving parents for you. And music lessons. Music became his passion, practicing for hours upon hours, mastering drums, guitar, and keyboard, delving into writing his own music. When Tony became interested in something, he was full on, really into it, actually driven. And Tony was a lucky kid, experiencing the wonders of the planet with family trips to national parks in California, Utah, and other places. He loved visiting Chrissy's parents in Florida, walking the beaches and finding shark's teeth. There's a wonderful set of photos in John and Chrissy's living room with them posed on and near giant sequoia trees and their huge roots, a testament to their family adventures that also included camping, hiking, fishing, kayaking, rafting, and snowboarding. He particularly enjoyed fishing. And Tony appreciated all this loving support and attention. He knew he was deeply loved and freely expressed it. A precious keepsake for Chrissy and John are 2 letters written by Tony in his young hand, expressing that he loved each of them more than Big Macs or Quarter Pounders. You can't be any more loved than that. He was a naturally affectionate child, snuggly and demonstrative. And he did see his mom, Brooke, from time to time, showering her with his love and affection as well. And while music was the love of his life, he was athletic as well, riding bikes, playing football, and wrestling. He delighted in showing off his prowess with those wheelie shoes, the shoes with the little wheels. He loved fooling around on the smooth floors of supermarkets. It was a fall off a skateboard that landed him with a broken wrist as a freshman in high school. And Tony reflected that this was his first exposure to oxycodone, prescribed for the pain. He coasted through high school, not taking it too seriously. His focus was music. Tony and his friend Sam formed a band with their parents' full support. They played gigs at the Booby Trap in Topeka with parents in tow, cheering them on. Music was his life. While John and Chrissy offered to pay for college, Tony wasn't interested. He only wanted to make music, not study it. And like a lot of teens, got drunk and smoked pot, pushing those boundaries. Along the way, Tony also got the chance to be a big brother twice over. He was a young teen when John and Chrissy welcomed their son Ben into the world, and then an older teen when Brooke gave birth to his half-sister Dahlia. He enjoyed the big brother role too, and his affection was warmly returned by his siblings. Tony was a truly talented musician. You heard some of his music as you arrived here today. He put his songs up on SoundCloud online and attracted the attention of a serious music executive. And next thing he knew, he was flown to Virginia, invited to play in a new band. A golden opportunity. But an opportunity not come to fruition. After a few weeks, he returned home, since drinking and drugs got in the way of his passion for music. And thus began a pattern of addiction that interfered with his ability to hold jobs and even live at home. He cooked in local Asian restaurants. He was a very good cook, by the way, becoming quite accomplished at Asian food preparation. He worked as a stonemason. And he tried some other jobs, but none worked out. His growing addiction interfered with girlfriends, other friends, and the trust of his loving family. That is the pernicious thing about opioid addiction. After a while, the euphoria fades, but your body craves the drug to just feel normal. One doesn't take the drugs to get high, but to just not feel sick. Tony was caught up in the throes of this awful cycle, like so many other people right now. And even in the midst of this struggle, Tony would readily help neighbors in need of a hand. His kindness touched the hearts of many, even as they worried about him. This whole time, John, Chrissy, and Brooke reached out in love and support over and over and over again. They were steadfast in their love. Tony wore out his welcome couch surfing at friends' homes and eventually started camping out with his girlfriend Kayla while working on his music. Even through that dangerous and heartbreaking time, John and Chrissy kept things for him in their storage shed and kept connections with him. They tried to access mental health services for him, but were not successful in this effort. Friends, wraparound services addressing the full physical, mental, and spiritual needs for people experiencing addiction and homelessness are not available in Lawrence right now. It is a true tragedy that this is so. One wonders if effective help had been available, Tony might now well be on his way to a fuller life, filled with music, without drugs. His last home was at the winter encampment along the river in North Lawrence, where he was much loved and appreciated by the other campers. John and Chrissy visited him there at Christmas time with gifts, hugs, and I love yous all around. The loving, empathetic, affectionate, appreciative Tony shining through. He expressed to his mother that he wanted to get clean and was seeking her help, something she knew well because she herself had gone through the tough process of getting off opioids. He was looking forward to his 27th birthday coming up in January. Beneath it all, he was a person who wanted to live, wanted to love, and wanted to make music, wanting to get his life back. His warm personality and kind, sensitive heart shone through in his last hours. He realized that Kayla was overdosing and he saved her life by administering Narcan, the antidote that prevents a shutdown of one's breathing. None of us ever knows what our last act in life will be. That Tony's last act was saving someone's life speaks to his love, his kindness, his true nature. A loving man who most likely took a dose himself to help him get some rest after the intense experience of saving his lover's life, unaware of the danger that particular pill would pose. And now he lives on in our memories. A loving, funny, charming, very talented man with a big heart. His music and his kindness live on. He will be forever missed. May we hold the memories of his deep goodness as we mourn that his time here was way too brief. We have invited some special friends of Tony to share their memories of him. But before that happens, we have a musical reflection by Ellie Labar. Thank you, Ellie.
say she died easy of a broken heart disease as I listened through the cemetery trees. The sun coming up at the funeral at dawn, the long broken arm of human law. It always seemed such a waste, she always had a pretty face. I wondered why she hung around this place. Try a little, nothing is forever. There's got to be something better than in the middle. Me and Cinderella put it all together. We can drive it home with one headlight. Said it's cold, feels like Independence Day, and I can't break away from this parade. There's got to be an opening somewhere here in front of me, through this maze of ugliness and greed. I see the sign up ahead, the country line bridge, saying all is good and nothingness is dead. Run until she's out of breath, she ran until there's nothing left. She hit the end, it's just her window ledge. Hey, don't try a little, nothing is forever. There's got to be something better than in the middle. Me and Cinderella put it all together. We can drive it home. One This place is old, feels just like a beat-up truck. I turn the engine, but the engine doesn't turn. Smells of cheap wine and cigarettes. This place is always such a mess. Times I think I'd like to watch it burn. I sit alone, feel just like somebody else. Man, I ain't changed, but I know I ain't the same. But somewhere here in between these city walls of dying dreams, I think her death, it must be killing me. Hey, come on, try a little. Nothing is forever. It's got to be something better than in the middle. Me and Cinderella put it all together. We can drive it home with one headlight. One headlight.
Now, some special friends of Tony will share their memories of him. We start out with Sam Dowell, Tony's best friend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Dowell, and Tony was my best friend. We knew each other for about 15 years, and we met for the first time playing soccer in 6th grade, and we did not get along at all. The next time we met was the following year in Mrs. Grant's 7th grade science class at Southwest Junior High. Unfortunately for Mrs. Grant, she sat us alphabetically, which placed Tony and I right next to each other, C and D. This is when we both found out that we were both drummers. We became fast friends, drumming on our desks throughout class, and then proceeded to drive our teacher crazy until she moved us. But by that time, it was too late. Tony introduced me to the double kick pedal, and that moment probably changed me as a musician. I would bring my set over to his house and we'd play simultaneously on 2 drum sets, probably driving John and Chris crazy. We would jam together, which turned into forming many bands and eventually Shed the Dreamer. It was with Tony that I had my first true experience of being in a band and gigging on drum set, which is something I love to do. So Tony undoubtedly had a huge impact on my passion for music and drumming and helped me become the musician I am today. We played together so much that we began to be able to predict and read each other musically, as you get when playing music with any person for a long period of time, you can just eventually read each other's minds in that way. And we definitely had that, both with music, but also with our senses of humor. We often made up random words and phrases that made no sense. And I remember, but they made us laugh. That was the important part. I remember countless times sitting in my old green Explorer that had this voice recorder attached to the visor in it. And I remember so many times just sitting in my car, laughing our asses off to recordings we had just made, like of goofy vocal lines, and just yelling in my car, trying to hit random weird harmonies together, stuff like that. So whenever we were like driving around, if we were in an argument or something and I'd be driving, he'd reach over and press play on this recording. And then we couldn't keep from laughing over the sound of these ridiculous sounds blaring in our ears, which would pretty immediately change the mood of what was ever going on before. We had the exact same absurd sense of humor. We lived together and traveled together, and we went to music festivals together. But at the beginning of March 2020, I moved to Seattle, which was the worst time to do that. I spent a lot of time, but during that time, I spent a lot of time talking on the phone and video chatting with Tony, keeping each other sane during lockdown stuff. We would show each other music we'd been working on and even write together music over the phone, over video chat, sometimes just talking about nothing for hours or creating more random words that we like to say to each other at inappropriate times. He even flew out to Seattle to come visit me and drove all the way 28 hours back to Kansas. So as we all know, he was that kind of friend. And I think everyone else that knew him would also agree that he was the kind of friend that always had your back. He had an amazing energy that was very infectious, and he was like a brother to me, and I will miss him.
Next, we'll hear from Liza Gant, who grew up with Tony here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lawrence.
Sam Dowell, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that up. So yeah, I'm Liza. I grew up here. Oh yeah, I can take this off. Tony was my church buddy and then later on dear friend. I'm gonna get through this without crying. Starting to draft this, I kind of was thinking about a narrative, wanted to start with like, how did I meet Tony? I know Tony through the fellowship. I don't think I ever actually met Tony. I was at a potluck, I think at Carol Eads' house. Was being 11 and being despondent and annoyed at everything. And then all of a sudden, this chubby cheeked kid who was like a full head shorter than me just comes up and like starts talking to me like he knew me. Like did not introduce himself. He was just there. But like something about when someone's coming at you with such high energy just makes you feel like very at ease. And we hung out the rest of the afternoon. It was the most fun I'd ever had at a church function. We were super rowdy, ran up and down a grassy hill, then rolled back down it. I definitely think John yelled at him at one point. We were being way too loud, I know that for sure. He's the last kid I remember playing with. I didn't realize like just the way that kids play before you get teenaged and jaded and all that. I enthusiastically came to church potluck almost every Wednesday after that, and it was always because I was always hoping Tony was going to be there. He was a pretty stable presence in my youth from now on. I would almost describe hanging out with Tony when he was full bright-eyed and clear-headed as an experience. You were kind of in the room just getting to experience the Tony show as he chugged along, making the weirdest, most unsettling noises, flipping his hair, drumming on everything, and saying whatever ridiculous, intrusive thought popped into his brain. I felt lucky to be his friend. There's something, like I said, there's something about being around someone so ridiculous and uninhibited that brings out others' most genuine selves. He was one of my favorite people to be just stupid and silly with. I can't think of someone who, Sam, what you were saying about the car, I can't think of someone who loved making someone laugh when it was inappropriate to laugh more than Tony. My favorite story is him getting double kicked out of youth group, where he did this thing where at some point he learned how to make this really high-pitched sound with his mouth shut. And so he would be doing this and the facilitator's talking and he's in my ear, so I'm the only one that can hear it. And so I'm laughing so hard, I'm trying really, really hard not to. And he just goes, like, there was a moment of silence. They're like, get out. He does the whole, it's not me, what? And he went out. And so he went outside. There's a window on the door of the room we were meeting in, and the facilitator's like, take a lap. And he was like, okay. But instead of take a lap, he goes and he stands at the door. He's making direct eye contact with me. I'm trying not to look at him, and he's just going like this. Oh my gosh. And then he got double kicked out and just ran away, smiling, flouncing, whatever. He was super happy with himself. Okay, here's the part where the minister's daughter comes out in me and I do the little preachy thing at the end. One thing that I do believe is that we have some control over what cursory people we allow into our lives. We don't have a choice who we love. A lot of people really, really, really loved Tony. He was charming, chaotic, charismatic, and just bright, funny, easy to be around. I've lost several friends over the years, and I've gone through a different emotional journey coping with each of them. And they've all been devastating in their own diverse and unquantifiable ways, but this one's really hit me differently. I think I figured out why, is that the echoing absence of Tony Cipollaro on this planet feels much different than the painful lack of presence that I felt before. And even though we're all gathered here in like solemn mutual grief, I don't think there's a single person here that is sad that they knew him. Thank you.
Cousins often have special relationships, and that was the case for Tony Spears and Tony Cipollaro. We welcome Tony Spears to share about his cousin.
Hello, I'm Tony Spears. If you knew both of us, Big Tony was what I went by all the time, and he was Little Tony. That changed over the years, obviously. He got a little taller than me, but I knew Tony. I think I was one of the first person to meet him when he came to Lawrence when he was 3 or 4. I'm a couple years older, so I got to spend a lot of time with him through most of our lives. Sorry. In trying to figure out what to talk about, hit this. Sorry. Had a lot of times to look back on. When he came into my life, he was just another kid. Like I said, he's 5 years younger than me, and he was always there, and I did not want him to be. We had a harsh relationship at the beginning of our childhoods. I would pick on him. Usually he wouldn't deserve it, but sometimes he would. But we spent a lot of time together, and he was always around. I remember things changed a little bit when I was a teenager and little Tony started to play the drums, and like everyone says, he was amazing. I remember the first time he came to my house, he begged, "Can you play guitar and I'll play drums?" And I'm like, "Yes, we can do it." He comes over, we play one song for 2 hours, and by the end of it, he was trying to convince me to kick my drummer out of my band out, so because he was better. Which, in the end, yes, but that was pretty early on in his musical career. And I remember sometime after that getting to go to what I think was one of his first shows in a driveway out in the neighborhood that they lived in. Somebody was having a party, and I remember thinking, I couldn't believe it. If I was in a metal band at the time, and I couldn't believe it, thinking that if we did this, the cops would be here and no one would be having fun. But it was great. So we it was one of my most consistent musical partners. We had quite a few bands together here. Sam, we had one with Sam, and we even happened to play here for one of John's birthday parties. And the man was unbelievable. Like I said, I'm 5 years older, and the first time we were in a band together, I was 18 or 19, and it was hard to admit that your 15-year-old little cousin or 14-year-old cousin was much better than you. But he was, but he never made anyone feel like that. He loved making music, but he loved to do it I think he loved the collaborative experience of it. He wanted to make music with whoever he could. He could do everything. He could play guitar, he could play the drums, he could sing, scream, record it all. He could be a one-man band if he wanted to, but he always wanted to create with other people and make them feel good while they do it. And that's what I remember most, is just the way that he always wanted other people to feel good. He personally helped me during some of my darkest times where I shelled up and kind of cut off from all of my family. But he didn't. we stayed in contact all the time. He always checked up on me. You know, even let me stay with him for a night or two. He was just always there for people when they needed him, because he loved everybody. And like everyone said, he was friends with everybody. He was not shy in the least bit, outgoing. I can just imagine what he would tell me after I got off this stage, since he knows I cannot talk in front of people, just saying, "You did good, bro. You were perfect." And yet, you know, he would believe it, because that's just how he was. Tony was first and foremost my cousin, but he was one of my best friends, and I love him, and I miss him. And I know everybody in the room does. Thank you.
Karina Novello is another friend of Tony's, known to him through this congregation.
Hello. I'm not very good at public speaking, so I'm gonna try to keep short. But so Tony and I met at Southwest Junior High, and he was the reason why I passed computer science. So thank you. Throughout, you know, our friendship, one thing that I admired every single time. Excuse me. We would run into each other. It would be how much he loved his brother Ben. And I worked here at the fellowship back in the nursery. And one day, you know, it's just a Sunday, didn't think anything out of the ordinary. And then I hear a certain laugh in the hallway, and I was like, is that who I think it is? And here comes little Ben, just like running down the hall, like coming to the nursery. Tony is chasing after him. It's just a picture that I always find hilarious. And he stayed with us every time he would come in the nursery to just kind of like check in with Ben or the other kids. And it was just always something special. And even past that, you know, we both kind of went our different ways, friendship-wise, but every time we would run into each other, it'd be like, "Hey, are you still working at Raintree? And do you still see Ben?" I'm like, "Of course, I'm always gonna keep an eye out on him." And it was just, he was like, "Yeah, you know, he's much taller than me," and he was quite sensitive about the tall thing, but he was always kind to everyone that he met, and every time he walked into a room, he really showed everyone kindness, and just really was the show. And I'm so glad that I could call him my friend, and thank you all for being here.
Tony's friendships extended far beyond his age cohort, and one of his older friends is Graham Kriker, who is joining us on Zoom from his home at Presbyterian Manor.
Can you hear me okay? Jill? Oh. Can you hear me, friends?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Jill, I want to thank you especially for your superb word portrait that gave us a wonderful insight into Tony. And part of the tragic events is simply that we don't know if he ever brought as much joy to himself as he did to all the rest of us. I hope that's the case, but I'll never know. I only knew Tony on his bright, shiny side. I never knew anything about the demons that affected him. I do know that he was a benefit of overflowing love from John and Chrissy Spencer, who raised him up to be a self-reliant, confident man, and they continued to support him as he went off on his own to explore life, whether here in Lawrence or out of state. He was a very unusual, giving person, and it's just a tragic thing that his life ended so soon. I want to comment again, like others, about how wonderful it was that he had that musical talent he shared with us frequently at the Unitarian Universalist congregation. And I also was privileged to hear him play at other venues, including once when his band performed at the Bottleneck. They were pretty good for a boys band. And at the end of one set, he, with a big smile, came over to where I was sitting, and he had his drumsticks clenched in his hand. And as it turned out, he was the lead vocal singer on that last set. And he said to me with a big smile, he said to me, "Graham," he said, "the other guys are better singers than I am, but I can scream louder than all the rest of them." That was the big smile, a big laugh, and a thing that I'll never forget. He was a wonderful young man, and I'll always miss him. Thank you, Jill.
Now there'll be a musical reflection. During the next few minutes, I invite some of you to share something of what it is for you to experience Tony's companionship, love, presence, energy, wisdom, humor, or encouragement in your own lives. You may wish to share a memory or say something about how your life was enriched by Tony's. Please say who you are and speak briefly from the microphone set up in the center. Briefly, because we are full today, to remember Tony, and so that as many people who would like to may be able to share. And if there are silent spaces between speakers, you may use this time to nourish a silent memory or offer a prayer of gratitude.
Guys, as Tony's first mother, I want to thank all of you so much for being here. The fact that you are all here helps me so much in my grief. Seeing that it wasn't just me that thought that Tony was the most magical thing ever. I just always thought maybe I was just that in love with him because he was mine, but apparently he really was just as magic as I thought. I was very, very young when I had Tony, and the minute that I found out that he was to be, I was in love with him. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to give him a chance at life. And I did the best I could as a young, stupid kid. Sadly, addiction hurts so many people. And it's something that has run in both sides of Tony's family for many years in his biological family. There are so many bright people in this room, so many of you that have influences in different parts of this city. My biggest request to all of you is that if you have any pull in making things happen where there's more coverage for kids with addiction issues in this county, it can be the difference in life and death. You know, there's AA, there's NA, there's those baseline programs, but as Chris has brought out in some of our conversations, the need for encompassing healthcare for people with mental health issues, especially in addiction issues, is just, it's an overwhelming problem. And the sad thing is it reaches people in Tony's age group and younger more prevalently than anyone else. So in loving Tony and keeping him in your heart, if you find any place that you can make a difference for children like Tony, well, adults, he's always going to be a kid in my mind, but please do so. Reach out to other people like him. If you know someone with addiction issues, talk to them, try to get them help. It can be the difference in life and death. But I thank you all for being here more than anything in the world. It has warmed my heart so much. Every person that stood up and talked, and every person that's made music, especially seeing you, Ben, has been, your music just warmed my heart more than anything. We all love Tony very much, and I thank you so much for being here.
I'm not going to speak because I didn't actually know Tony, although I wish that I did. But I am going to turn the mic around, so if anybody else would like to come up and talk, we might be able to hear better.
My name is Josh Reisley. I feel like if I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I feel like I am going to explode if I don't apologize to him one more time. We were in a band together. We were in a couple bands together, actually. And like all the other guys said, we were like brothers, really close.
like I just let him slip away, and this sucks so bad. It's such an unfortunate loss. I'm sorry to you guys too. We really wanted to help him. I love you, and I'm sorry that I didn't listen well enough. We had a really bad falling out when the band broke up originally, and we both said some really mean things to each other, and it sucks so bad because after I heard of his passing, I went through and read through our messages, and it was such a childish fight. But I'm very thankful that we were able to reunite and kind of hash things out and apologize to each other and at least reconnect one last time. But man, I've never had grief like this, and I don't know what to do with these feelings, and it sucks. He was so talented, and I appreciate my time with him. So, thank you.
Hi. This is kind of weird because I was not planning on standing up here. I knew Tony in these really brief moments. He was my best friend's best friend. And when we were little, she told me, my cousin Tony is coming to stay the weekend with us, and you guys are going to be the best of friends. And we were not. We were immediately arch nemesis because we both loved her so fiercely and wanted her attention so much. But eventually, it got to this sort of truce where we kind of agreed, man, we both love you so much, and we both want to be around you. So we're going to pretend to like each other to your face, and then we're going to make really mean faces at each other behind your back. And as we got older, all I really got from Tony were these echoes of him, you know, and I feel that now in this room. There are these echoes of Tony, and they're not sad echoes, they're happy ones, they're grateful ones, they're sometimes regretful ones, where you feel him in these bits and pieces, but they're bright and they're there. And I lost my dad in 2019 to addiction. It was alcohol, not opioids, but addiction is addiction. And I know it's hard, and you carry this guilt with you, like I could have done something more, I could have helped him more, I could have been there more, and maybe you could have, but mostly you did what you could. And you can't hold on to that guilt because it will eat you from the inside out. And the echo that I get from Tony is that he would not want that. He loved everybody so fiercely and so strongly. And I hope that that's the memory that you can take forward from him. And I also hope that as we go forward, especially as you guys talked about the community here dealing with opioid addiction, that we can help push Kansas forward with things like fentanyl test strips and better housing for people who are experiencing unhousing, crises due to their addictions. But mostly, I just wanted to get up here and say, don't go to bed guilty. Don't, feel sad, cry and cry. But the loss is not going to be any less of a loss because you feel sad. He'd want you to be happy and celebrate his life. And I hope that's what you're able to do.
More people today. I knew Tony from the camp. I'm actually part of the people out there in the camp. Well, for the time that I knew Tony, he was an amazing person. I enjoyed spending time with him, even when he got on my nerves from chopping wood at 3 a.m. And I still loved him. I miss going over to his tent and just complaining about anything. He'd just sit there, listen. And by the time I was done complaining, he'd be like, well, what can you do to fix this? Well, I don't know. He'd come up with solutions. I'd take them, come back the next day. Like, this was a routine that we had. I'd come back the next day and see what I had done to fix it. I don't want anyone to feel guilty or anything like that. I know that he had an addiction, but that doesn't change who he was as a person. My dad's addicted and it never changed him as a person. He's still my dad. I just want people to remember him as himself, not his addiction. Thank you, guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Annabelle, and Tony was my older stepbrother. So that means we were forced to know each other. And that was okay because he treated me just like a sibling. He picked at me, he doodled at me, he gleeked at me, and he brought so much joy to me and comfort because we went through a lot together. And instead of leaving me behind because I was 4 years younger, he took me with him and hung out with me and allowed me to be a part of his life when he didn't have to. And I think that speaks to all the things that everyone else has said, because he was full of kindness. And I just want to remind us all that when we feel grief, or we feel alone, or we miss him, that he's right there. And he would want us to think about him and laugh. No matter how we felt before, he would want to make us laugh. So please remember that when you think of him.
Going along with making people laugh, I wanted to share a lighter-hearted story. It's very short. One day, Tony and I were hanging out in my room in my old house, and he decided that it would be a good idea to light his armpit hair on fire. It went up into a ball of flames, went out pretty fast, but the smell remained in my room for a few weeks. That's all.
Okay, I don't want to say a lot, but I knew Tony back when I was a teenager, during all of my teenage years, and I saw them as family, and I still do. I just remember Tony as a beautiful soul, very talented, very talented. And I know he loved his cousin, Tony, very much. And he will be very missed.
We'll continue to share these memories today, after the service, and for many years to come. With tears and laughter, we dip into the deep well of love and memory. And may these memories and those unspoken nourish you and keep Tony with you. May I ask Ellie to come forward? We have these rich and beautiful memories, so we'll have a time of quiet reflection to let these words sink into our hearts. While we usually offer a spoken prayer or a poem, it feels right and true to offer a musical meditation with Ellie singing End of the Line by the Traveling Wilburys. And when she's done, let us offer each other the gift of some time of silence.
Well, it's alright. Well, it's alright. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's alright. If you live the life you please, well, it's alright. Doing the best you can, well, it's alright. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's alright, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's alright. Sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright. As long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's alright. Every day's Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road a ways, you'll think of me and wonder where I am these days. Maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays Purple Haze. Well, it's alright, even when push comes to shove. Well, it's alright. If you got someone to love, well, it's alright. Everything will work out fine. It's alright. We're going to the end of the line. Don't have to be ashamed of the car I drive. Just glad to be here, happy to be alive. It don't matter if you're
This flame is now extinguished, but we hold the warmth and light of love in our hearts. May this gathered beloved community continue to affirm the goodness of life as you hold each other in loving compassion. Whatever we have known and loved is ours as long as we live. Let us know that what we have loved becomes a part of us forever and is given a life that goes on. May we live our lives with love and kindness, for in doing so, we will pay the best and most lasting tribute we can to Tony Cipollaro. His family would appreciate greeting you in a receiving line as you make your way upstairs to enjoy a reception. An elevator is available. Take care, dear ones. And let's enjoy just a few more moments of Tony's music before we join the family in the lobby.
I've never heard anything more beautiful in my whole life.
It was good. Okay. I'm playing.
Is that the Thanksgiving melody?
No, I just made that up, and it was very difficult to keep coming up with new ideas.